Hey everybody, this is Tony and I'm here today with a special guest, none other than singer, Miss Melanie Moore. How you doing today?
Fine, I'm doing wonderful.
All right, I'm glad to hear that. So how have things been going for you during the midst of this whole pandemic?
They've been doing pretty well. We haven't worked locally until June 1st, this past
Okay.
June 1st. But I've been in the recording studio since a little before the pandemic hit. So I just concentrated on my music,
Right,
doing
right.
my album, completing my album.
Okay. And speaking of the music, you have your project out, the Melanie Moore project, the EP,
Yes,
that you put out last year. And this is consisted of jazz music, so it's 4 tracks on there, right?
right. It's jazz and pop kind of.
Okay, okay.
You know, my
Yeah,
arrangements.
I loved it though. I mean, I want to listen to it all. The song "Good Enough," I think that's the song Anita Baker did, if I'm not
Yes, she
mistaken.
did years
Yeah.
ago.
So
Yeah.
what went into the song choices for this and the rest of the song's original compositions?
Um, these uh, these first four songs were favorites of mine, and I do them in my live show.
Mm-hmm.
So with my band, and I what I did was creatively was change the arrangements,
Okay.
and with my music producer, um, I do lyrics and the executive producer part, but my music producer Ronnie Payne, uh, he I told him how different flavor I wanted on these songs, and so we did, and they Night in Tunisia was originally done by Dizzy Gillespie.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Chaka rewrote the words along with Arif Mardin, and I hope I say his name right. And they put some different lyrics to it. And I've always liked that interpretation. So I wanted to do that one with my flavor. And then the second one is Deep Water, and that was done by Mesa.
Mm,
She recorded it. Uh, Incognito is the band that, she did it when she was with Incognito. So I
right.
did that, and I did a little different flavor on it. And then the next one was I did a whole um, uh, Caribbean sound to it, flavor to it.
Right.
And so that one was the Deep Water, and then Good Enough, and then I'm Glad There Is You.
Right.
Now, I'm Glad There Is You, I did it as a ballad, but I've since redone it with a real Brazilian smooth jazz feel.
Mm,
So
okay.
when I do it when you hear it on the album, it'll be a different arrangement. Lyrics are the same, muted trumpet, flugelhorn, but I wanted a more not just straight ballad. So that's what I did.
That
And then
sounds interesting.
the rest of the songs on the album, there will be 12, are all original songs.
Okay.
And they've been submitted to me. Well, I wrote, let me see, one, two, three. I wrote three of the songs. In fact, one is in arrangement now, production. My girlfriend, who is also my vocal producer,
Mm-hmm.
she wrote one, and then a friend of mine who is was a conductor here in Vegas, in the United States, but he's living in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
I did a song that he did, but I completely rearranged that with his permission.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I've got three more to record. And like I said, one is in production. I'll be doing an acoustic one with Latin guitar, just me and the guitar.
Okay.
And then the third one is up in the air, we're still we're searching, for
Right.
that. So
Right.
and I always use live musicians. Um,
I can hear that.
I was able to call my friend Daryl Williams, who is on Watercolors now. He
Mm-hmm.
works with Peter White and Jeff Lorber and Huge Groove and all that. And so Daryl laid some bass tracks for me on one of my songs. And, you know, I'm pulling the best of the best in Las Vegas to accompany me on my, you know, because I know all these people. So I'm like, you want to play on my album? Because nobody's doing albums around here. So
right.
And they're like, sure, you know. So we do a session, and it's like, you know. So that's what we're doing.
So do we have a release date for the album yet, or is it still working?
It'll be January, and I will be going to the NAMM convention. So if they still have, you know,
right.
Year, I go to NAMM every year, and that's why I was able to get, distribute some of my my EP to Marcus Miller and to Gerald Albright. You know, I've given it to them to have. I've been knowing Marcus for a long time, and so we're looking at January before NAMM, or it'll be right before the end of January.
Okay. Sounds
Since I'm doing it all myself, I can dictate, you know.
Right. So which is always a good thing. It's a good thing.
January, absolutely.
Yeah. So for as far as the sounds of the album, it's all just going to be mixed up, you would say, right?
You know, it's very eclectic. It started, I've never been a real hard jazz singer because I'm coming from a career of singing R&B.
Yeah.
And so this time, well, since I guess back in the day, I started doing more jazz, pop feel, and then with funky R&B, you know, bass lines. And so you pat your foot, but you can still drink your coffee or drink your wine, you know.
That's right.
So yeah, if you want to get up and dance, go ahead, you know.
No, that's awesome though. I think it's always good when artists, you know, play with instruments and sounds and things like that, you know, because it gives everybody a little bit of everything, you know, and it's not just one, you know, sound. So I always love that kind of stuff. But speaking of your career, for people who don't know you, let's go back. So let's go to the beginning of how you got started in the industry, because you obviously been around for a long time. You've been doing background vocals for a lot of people, as well as your own stuff. So how did you get started in the industry?
Well, okay, so I don't want to date myself too much, but I'm one of those singers that of a million of us little Black girls and little white girls, you know, all of us, who started singing in your hairbrush and in the mirror, you know. And my dad was a jazz enthusiast, and he played, I mean, I grew up with modern jazz quartet, all those kinds, Miles Davis, all those kinds of sounds along, and not too many vocalists until my mother got on my dad years ago and said, why don't you ever have any singers? You know, just me, you know, just music. So he bought Lena Horne, he bought Nancy Wilson, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, who I love. And so we started hearing more and more, you know, around my house, female singers. And I was most influenced by Nancy Wilson.
Absolutely. The great Nancy Wilson.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I didn't start singing jazz right away. I was just R&B because I grew up in the Motown era. And that was the most influential for us little girls to see the Supremes, and mostly the Supremes on television. And I realized that I could do that. And I've always sung, but in middle school and in high school. And then I went to Central State University. And that was just like a plethora of musicians and singers. And a lot of us got our start, you know, in college. And then I'm from Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
And that's the home of funk. And from Ohio Players to Peso to all of us,
Roger Troutman and
Roger,
Shirley Murdoch. Yeah,
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 Roger was a little younger than I am, but
yeah.
he's still in the early 90s. He's still, they didn't work a lot. Zap didn't work a lot in Dayton.
Uh-huh.
They always worked outside, but in the early 90s, they would come every so often and do a concert. And that's how I was introduced to Shirley Murdoch and just that whole influence, at that time.
Yeah, yeah. So wait a minute, let's pause right there. So going back to the Motown era, you say growing up, of course the Supremes were pretty much their biggest group out at that time, probably. But what did that mean for you as a little Black girl to see the Supremes and all those artists out at that time? Because music had changed at that point, and
Right.
basically
It was before disco.
Yeah. So what did that mean for you?
It meant that I could do it. I knew I could do it too, because I knew I could sing. And I wasn't, I'm like a lot of artists who were influenced in church. I went to an Episcopal church. They wasn't singing no, hymns. And I mean, they were singing hymns, but they weren't, like a Baptist church.
They didn't have that edge.
I can't even say that was an influence on me. I was more influenced by what I saw on television. We, up to that time, had not seen Black artists on TV. I mean, you have to go back from what my parents told me. Nat King Cole was only allowed a TV show for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He couldn't get sponsors because of his skin color, not because of his artistry. And I just felt that, that was so sad. So by the time I became aware of my ability, and I wasn't knocking down doors vocally either, but it was in my heart that I was just most influenced. I mean, we saw more and more artists. And as time went on, and by the time I was in college, everybody was out. I remember Earth, Wind and Fire having a female in the group. I mean, that's how long ago, they used to come, because all those groups used to come to colleges and do college.
Yeah, that's true.
And I remember going up to Antioch College, because Central State and Antioch are about 30 minutes apart.
Okay.
And that's where Dave Chappelle lives, up in Antioch, Ohio. And Yellow Springs, Ohio. And so we would go and see groups that Antioch would have, but we would have too. I mean, Isaac Hayes, Knight would come to our campuses. The OJs were there all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because Dayton and Cleveland so close together, 3 hours apart, but I remember when the OJs had 4 people in them. So all those opportunities, and then I met so many other good musicians and singers at school at Antioch. I'm not sorry, at Central State. And also on the weekends, sometimes when I would go home, there were jazz clubs in Dayton, where you could go.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you a little story. I cut my teeth. My dad was my manager, and there was one club, I forgot the name of it, but it was a small club, and it was so show business, it was just so show business. And they had a comedian, they had a lady, her name was Big Red, and she was very campy and told jokes, and that's where I learned, how to deal with the audience when they kind of bothering you. And I just learned so much. And I would go backstage, and they'd have to watch their mouths, because I was in college. They'd have to watch their mouths, because they cursed all the time. But she taught me so much, Big Red, she's long passed away now, but those were the influences. And then like my junior year college, I decided I was going to go to New York.
Wow.
upon graduation, I was like, okay. And my parents were like, okay. So the universe started me on that path, to get to New York.
So once you got to New York and did you go on your own or did you go with somebody?
No, I went by myself. I had a job because I interviewed. I was always in what they call retail, and so I thought I wanted a career as a buyer,
Okay.
fashion buyer.
Yeah.
And so I was recruited at first by the J.C. Penney company as a buyer trainee.
Okay.
And they don't have any stores in Manhattan. They only have the buying offices. And so I was recruited straight out of college. That got me to New York because I at least could pay my rent and eat, and I could have an apartment and everything because I had a job. But then I started putting my feelers out to people that I met eventually and found out that there was one group that needed a singer, and I had to do some traveling on via the subway to get to where they were. And I met them, but they, I kind of rehearsed with them a few times, but they weren't going anywhere. And so it was a trek to get out there to the rehearsal. Mm-hmm. So then later I was told about a producer. His name was Billy Jackson. He's passed away now. And he had been with RCA.
Okay.
He had been producing the group The Tymes. Mm-hmm. Tymes, not Morris Day.
Right.
And, the Tymes had a very good career, but they had been on hiatus for like 10 years. And I didn't really listen to their music. I remember as we stroll along together, they made that, Mm-hmm. And I remember that song or hearing it on the radio. But those guys, there were 5 guys, and they had been he had been writing, and then they had been releasing music, but overseas. And he decided, Billy Jackson decided to form a female group. And so I got a call to audition, which I did right away, and I got the job. And so, which started and I met my very close dear friend, Isabel Coles, in New York. And Izzy's father was the great Honey Coles, tap dancer, who you see in many movies with Gregory Hines. I mean, he influenced all of Gregory Maurice and all them. But anyway, Izzy and I were in the group that Billy started, and with another young lady who eventually quit. And somehow a song he had released in England that the Times had just done took off, and it started climbing the charts. Well, 5 of the Times, 2 of them had, since they had been on hiatus in Philadelphia for so long, raising their families and everything, they didn't want to go back out on the road. So Billy added 2 women. And that's how I ended up, in show business, on tours and in England and working with Isabel,
Well, that's amazing though. But when you went to New York, was it ever a thought in your mind or, anything to say that you wanted to join a group, or were you just trying to get your foot in the door with anything?
Foot in the door.
Okay.
Had I gone the theatrical route at that time, mm-hmm. I've been on a million auditions, and at least a million. And it was just whatever I could do, because this day job was not getting it. Even though it was steady, I wasn't happy,
Yeah.
I wasn't happy. So, I'd search out, and things were popping in New York at that time. It was groups, all of us. So to bring you kind of up to snuff, Isabel and I went out on the next tour. Well, it was another young lady, Terry Gonzalez too, but we went out on the first tour in a long time for the Times overseas, all over. overseas. And then we came back and we went out again. And that's when I went out with Isabel. In between that time, I auditioned for an off-Broadway show called the All Night Strut. So they were opening that section. Well, it wasn't open, it was already open because my part in that ensemble was originated by Denzel Washington's wife, Pauletta Washington.
Right.
And so Pauletta was going, because it was a cast of 4, she was going to Toronto to work. And then I auditioned and got Boston. And so I was in Boston for about 9 months.
Okay.
And then it came back into New York. Well, when it came back into New York, I had been called by the backup group. It's kind of funny, this story. Our rhythm section eventually got their own record deal.
Okay.
Now, our road manager was Mike Murphy of The System, and everybody was writing songs and doing whatever they could do. So on a couple of tours, well, the first tour, we were the opening act for Rick James and Prince.
Oh, wow.
And so what can I say? You know, and then Mike eventually got his record deal for with the System, but it was after a couple of years, you know. But he was writing songs when we were asleep on our tour bus, you know, playing on his guitar, writing songs, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, and at that time, those things can happen, magically can happen. You don't look for them, you just keep working, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists too had the hunger for it. They had the real desire to go out and be artists. Like some people say, I want to be an artist, and then it's like, okay, I'm broke today. No, I can't do this anymore. You know, but some of these artists, or at least the artists back then, were really serious about it. They were like, I'll sleep on somebody's couch. I'll go, you know, do this until I get over. I'll do what I have to do.
Yeah. You know, and I do understand that. That is what has propelled me through this journey. I do like paychecks and healthcare.
Yeah.
So, you know, so when I would come home from being on the road, I'd work temp in New York, because you could work temp being a receptionist. Then that gave you the flexibility to go back out when you needed to, because you didn't have, you know, you were part-time.
Yeah.
So that was one. I mean, I signed up I at one time was with 5 temp agencies. So if one didn't have a job, I called the other one, or, you know, so I always kept working somehow. The most incredible thing was that the last tour I did with the Tymes, then 2 more of the Tymes decided they wanted to stay home. So we auditioned and hired another singer with one of the originals. And while we were we were in Germany at one time, and our rhythm section was writing songs, and they were, you know, getting ready to shop to get a deal. And they did eventually. And I think the first song that they did, this was while I was still doing the Off-Broadway show. Luther, who was a good friend of ours, would come to our rehearsal. We were just all good friends, right?
Right.
And Luther sang back up on, I think, the first song that they did, and that's what got them. That was what kicked them up. I think it was Winners. And then when I got finished with the Off-Broadway play, then they let me know that they had gotten a record deal on Atlantic Records. and I joined the group again. So, and there was 3 women up front, and then the guys and, and the musicians. And we were always on the bill, us, Chic, it was Kleeer. That was our new name, Kleeer. And most of the time on our rosters, we were with, because everybody was at the same time. So it was Chic, us, SOS Band, Atlantic Star. We were all out at the same time.
Oh, so you were in good company then.
DJ Rogers, Shalimar. They were on with Dick Griffey, and we were on. We had been on. They were with, I think, RCA. We were on Atlantic, so we always did. What do they call those? They would have these concerts, but they would just be with industry people.
Yeah.
And showcases, that's what they would call it. Okay. But we had already all had record deals and everything. So, that was my life. That's how I was around, Okay. Yeah.
That's look, it's amazing, just hearing all this stuff, because like I said, you were in good company, especially being all around all of these artists.
Yeah, the influencers, but I influenced them too, I hope.
That's right. That's right.
And we from the Supremes look, the interesting thing back when I was with the Tymes, we came out in gowns, and the guys were in suits. That loosened up when we were with Kleeer, because we were more, then we took on the label persona. The women did, and the guys, they were kind of Devo looking, and they had the fencing outfits with the light on it, so they come out being real scary looking on stage. It was interesting.
But by the time you were with,
so much fun.
By the time you were with Kleeer, though, this was in around what time? The late 70s or 80s?
Yeah, late 70s, late 70s, early 80s, yeah.
And then Luther ended up coming to you at some point to work on The Wiz.
The Wiz. We always stayed, and he was working and I was working and whatever, but and then he knew Isabel, my other my co-worker, and so Luther called me up and asked me, did I want to do the soundtrack to the movie The Wiz? And I was like, hello, yes. I went into this session. I have to tell you this quick little story.
Go ahead.
I went into the session. It was at A&M Studios, huge studio room. And I went in and there were all these artists there. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I was like with royalty. And so the men had their section. And I was trying to think who led that section, because each section had its main person that was, controlling us.
Okay.
And Patty Austin had the sopranos. I can't remember who was dealing with altos, and that's where I was. Okay. And I stood right next to Roberta Flack, doing this, and among other people. And then the men, there were so many guys that were from Nick Ashford to, I can't even remember all the guys who were at the time, were in the men's section. And so Quincy, actually Sidney Lumet, who's passed on now, he directed our session, but Quincy also was directing our session. And so we would watch the movie and they would tell us what to sing chorally. So you hear us, and the fact that they were shooting this in New York City was just unbelievable at the World Trade Center.
Right.
And they always did it late at night after, people worked. And completely transformed that, well, the way it used to look, you know, that whole area where you used to go in to Tower One and into the Yellow Brick Road.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. But just to
Yeah.
have Diana Ross and Michael Jackson and all these wonderful people on that cast, Nipsey Russell and a bunch of
Yeah.
others on that cast alone is just something to really marvel at.
And you know, I didn't see them, well, they weren't at the recording sessions because it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
40 of us. 40 of us. If you ever get the book to the album, my name's in there. But I saw them at the premiere, you know, because Luther called me and asked me. I had gone overseas to Italy, mostly Italy. I was on tour with a group, Saturday Night Fever, believe it or not. And I was a cast member with two other ladies. Well, Isabel was one and another lady. And we, for some reason in this big production, they wanted the emotions in there, which had nothing to do with the singers, you know, that started Saturday Night Fever, that sang the Bee Gees. But anyway, you know, hey, we were the emotions. So
that's right.
They didn't call us the emotions, but we were doing Best of My Love and everything, you know. And then we had a troupe of about 8 or 9 dancers and that with, you know, so we toured all over. But anyway, Luther called me and asked me if I wanted to go to the premiere. And I said, absolutely, because I had just been home about a week. So he picked me up, you know, and whisked me off, and I went, and it was just the most incredible evening, you know, to be there with Lena Horne and all the other people that now are gone, including Luther.
You know? Exactly. Unfortunately, but you know, we still have the music, thankfully, and that film particularly, you know, to still remember them by, which is a good thing.
Yes.
By the time that you had worked on the soundtrack, though, were you still with Kleeer at that time, or had you separated from them already?
No, I hadn't separated them from them. I'm trying to think. I think maybe I was still with them.
Okay.
When I did it, yeah.
So while you're in these groups, like while you move from the Tymes to Kleeer, and you know you see all these different artists and musicians move, and everybody take their own places in life and get record deals and stuff like that. Was it ever, you know, something in you that said, you know, this is not for me, or I need more, or you know, like when you seen somebody get a record deal, you're like, did it ever come to you and like, why is it not me, or when is it my turn, or something like that?
No, you know, I've never been. I was just happy living the moment, man. You know, I was like, I didn't realize how awesome it was, nor when you're in the moment like that and around people. I mean, from the Whispers to T.S. Monk's Sister Sledge. I did. Sorry. Oh, I don't know, because she sees me on here.
Right.
But stop it. So we did one show with Kleeer at Radio City with T.S. Monk. You remember, are you familiar with T.S. Monk? Well, the very famous jazz musician Thelonious Monk. You ever heard of him? You can look him up when we're done.
Yeah.
Thelonious Monk, awesome jazz musician, but he's my daddy's era. So his son called himself T.S. Monk.
Okay.
And they had a hit out. So the package usually was T.S. Monk, Kleeer, and Sister Sledge. We did many. Sometimes we would open for Chaka. Those shows, because Chaka and the Brothers Johnson, they were out on their tours. And then we were doing our thing. So everybody had room to do whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I never felt like, well, why am I not getting? No, I still don't feel that way. I always feel like I'll do my best. I want to sing better. I want to be happy with myself,
Yeah.
you know, and you'd hear about people getting deals, but at that time, a lot of people were not getting single deals. They were getting
Right.
group deals.
Yeah.
So like Atlantic Star, I was always love them. We've done shows with Kleeer. We did shows with Confunction out west because we were mostly East Coast and South and the South, Southern states. That's where our radio airplay was the most. What are your call letters?
I'm sorry.
On your radio, for your radio station. Do you
No,
have?
I'm not on the radio.
You know, but aren't you on the radio every day?
No.
Oh, I thought you were on radio.
No. No, just online for right now.
Oh, okay. Mabel gave misinformation.
Yeah. That's all right.
It's cool.
Look, she forgets all the time because she said she called me one time and she thought I was in I think LA, and I'm like,
she told me you were in LA. Yeah.
Yeah, she always thinks that, and then I'm like, Mabel, no, I'm in Miami, so it's all right.
She just texted me that this morning. Oh, he's in Miami. I was like, oh, okay. You know.
Yeah. I always
just give me the Zoom connection. I'm good. You know, I'm good.
It's all right though. It's all right. But during the midst of your career, during that time, what did your parents, support your decisions to have that career?
Yeah, long as I got my college degree, which I did.
Okay.
They said, no, you're gonna get your college degree. My junior year of college, my first cousin, who's like my brother, is a drummer. Okay. And he started playing with Mother's Finest.
Oh, okay.
He was their drummer for a while. Wow. And they came through our area in Dayton. They were in that Midwest area. And then they sat down in Dayton for a while, for a few months. So I started, when they would appear at a club, I'd go and sing backup because I loved them, And they had told me that, I could possibly sing backup. So I was so excited, and I went home and told my parents, I was going to quit school and go sing backup with Mother's Finest, who they didn't know. And my mother and father quietly said, okay, well, if you go now, if you quit, we're not going to support you anymore. If you quit now. And these 4 years are like allotted financially. And like, don't be stupid. So I kept my little kahunas in back at Central State and graduated, Yeah. And then that's when before that, I decided I was going to New York because I was like, I'm not going to be road beat up, like I see some groups, I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I told somebody else that before, one of the artists that I was talking to, I think it was Will Downing or somebody. But I was saying, it's crazy how some artists can really reach a peak, in life, like Michael and Whitney. But, every artist can't reach that status. But for some time, it's for good reasons a lot of times too, because those people who get it sometimes don't know what to do with it, or they don't know how to handle it. So it's like a crash and burn kind of thing because you're not really equipped for what you're getting,
You need good representation.
Yeah.
The business of music is not singing. The business of music is not playing an instrument. The business of music is understanding. Well, now it's changed. It's changed a lot. I don't even know what it is now, but before you could go and stand up in somebody's office, sing, and get a record deal. Long time ago, or they come and see you at a club and go like, oh, okay, I like that,
Yeah.
Now it's how many hits you get on Facebook or Instagram,
right?
Or how popular you are. That's what lands you the spots on Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Fallon, and they, it's just kind of sad how a lot of those influencers of that day, they're all gone. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the executives
Yeah.
at RCA, Atlantic, all those places, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you see now a lot of these people that, or even young people, matter of fact, some younger than me, can go and get record deals now, but it's based off of something that you did crazy online or something. And it's
It
like,
is. And it
you don't
wasn't,
even have real talent to go in the door, but they're just signing you because of the publicity that you've gotten because of some online.
how many hits? How many
So
hits you got online? I'm like, what? I got over 2 million hits.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. You know,
Yes.
but in the meantime, like, is your stuff on the radio on regular rotation, you know? So
Yeah.
it's just, that's what made me decide. I've always been a session singer,
Mm-hmm.
and that it made me decide to do my own stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't have a connection with a record label yet. Don't know
Yeah.
if hopefully that'll happen, but I know that my stuff is distributed now. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Tidal, those platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what did we do before them? If
Right.
you wanted to produce your own music, how'd you get it out there, you know? Because
Yeah.
payola was a thing back in the day, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't do that anymore. And I mean, James Brown could, tell you about that,
Yeah.
because they had to try to get the music out and
Mm-hmm.
heard. And so that's one thing that my girlfriend, Billy Cole, um, has guided me with, and she's my vocal producer, to, you have to even get on Watercolors, you got to have a whole album for them to even think about you. You can't go
Yeah.
on there with they won't even consider you with an EP.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the EP, that was cute. But then I said, no, and Tony Quiet as Kept, after I finished these 12 songs, I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting on my next album,
Right.
because I can't just sit and
Yeah.
rest
Yeah.
on my laurels, I can't just sit. I gotta keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important too. And sometimes people don't understand the work and the actual stuff that you have to put into this kind of situation, especially making an album and just getting it put out. They don't understand how much work it is. So I'm glad that you said that, so people can kind of understand a little bit,
Yeah,
because they don't see it.
no. And I'm looking for a publicist to market my album because I don't have one now.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to hit me up and not charge me an arm and a leg to get my stuff out there, I mean, to the point where it's all over the place, that's what I'm looking for at my next venue. But let me tell you what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm co-producing a show with another young lady, Linda Woodson,
Mm-hmm.
and we're co-producing a tribute to Natalie Cole and Nancy Wilson here
Oh.
in Las Vegas. And it'll be an hour and 20-minute show, and just weaving historically the connection of years, writers who wrote some of the songs, because Nat didn't write some of the songs.
Yeah.
There's other people. And there's a song I just, I'm singing in the show called Orange Colored Sky. It's one of the songs that Natalie did on the album she did with her father.
Yes.
And so I was writing because today, just this afternoon, I was trying to, in the solo songs that I'm doing in the show, I wanted to make sure that I preface each song with who wrote it,
Okay. Okay.
And did you know? Have you ever heard that song?
No, I never heard it.
Color Sky?
Mm-mm.
Pull it up. Pull up Natalie doing it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen wrote that song.
Wow. But you see a
No,
lot of
no,
that.
I'm sorry. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Pink Cadillac. Remember
There you
Pink
go. There
Cadillac?
you go. Yeah, yeah.
Bruce Springsteen wrote that song, and I was like, really? Yeah, yeah, Bruce Springsteen, So yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
That happened a lot though, just like the Pointer Sisters redid I think one of his songs.
uh-huh.
Uh yeah, but and then it turned into a hit for them because
Yeah,
people didn't even realize that it was a country song.
yeah,
But
right.
it's crazy, how interpretation can really change something too. Because country music really is
I
very
love it.
similar to like the blues and jazz too in ways.
Always tell stories,
Yeah.
and they always tell great stories
Right.
instead
Right.
of just looping a bunch of tracks. They tell
Yeah.
stories. They weave you through, if it's about love,
Mm-hmm.
loss, whatever, and it depends on who's delivering it. I love Carrie Underwood. I love most of the females that are out now, and some of the African American new girls that
Yeah.
are on the scene, that the country scene. Where,
Yeah.
because it shouldn't have been isolated, but I say shouldn't have, but just historically, we had R&B, we had it, that was
Right.
us.
Right.
We also had jazz to a point, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and because you can't forget Dave Brubeck, all these other jazz musicians who were Caucasian, but we kind of had that, you know that area. But country usually wasn't influenced. Now Charlie Pride came along
Uh-huh.
and he broke that barrier, but it was just him
Yeah.
for many, many, many years. But now you got you just have other artists who are contributing.
Yeah. But it's been that way for a long time though, and people don't when you really sit down and think about it, it really has been going on since forever because even with Little Richard, you had Pat Boone covering his stuff. Like so this kind of stuff has been happening for a long time.
For a long time. Yeah.
We had white artists cover black artists' music, and then it was called pop. Meanwhile, it was an R&B song or a jazz song or whatever
And the
kind of
black
song.
artists didn't get any recognition for it,
Right,
or royalties,
right.
royalties. But now it's not too much about the royalty thing anymore either. That's why I said the music business has really, really changed. And that's what really was the influence for me, inspired me to do my own thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and I kind of know my way around a little bit vocally in the studio. I know
Hmm.
what I want to hear, and I know how it should sound. But
Yeah,
I also came up in the era in Dayton with musicians. I mean, I always had bands.
yeah.
We were all learning at the same time. And one of the last conversations I had with Roger, he told me, it was before I left Dayton. I was there because I was in New York for about 12 and a half years. I moved back to Dayton for about 12 years, and then I moved out here. And one of the last conversations I had with Roger was that he said, Mel, I really want to do a jazz project.
Okay.
And he said, I would like for you to do. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. You know, and then he died. He got shot,
Wow.
by his brother. I mean, we knew all of them, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
in town. I mean, they were like they were just regular people, like
Mm-hmm.
all of us were. And, that happened uh, just before I came out here. And it was just devastating to our community, our music community, just devastating.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. Especially with so much that they did, just only being humans, but what they did musically, too, for not only Zap, but to push out Shirley Murdoch and amongst other people.
right.
So they didn't just have themselves, they inspired a whole generation and then pushed out
Mhm.
some more music and influences because even Roger was on some of those hip hop songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So you really had a generation, more than one generation that was touched with Roger being here and his influence. So,
and they because their studio was so lucrative, Tupac, everybody came to Dayton. We didn't know they were there recording,
mm-hmm.
you know, because they would come because Roger had asked them to come, and then they'd use their studios, and it was just, you know, it was just awesome. I mean, that was just what was the norm for us.
Yeah.
You know, I went to high school with Jimmy Diamond, who is the drummer for the Ohio Players. He and I was in the marching band. He was playing the big old drum. You know, Jimmy and I've been friends for years and years. And then when they formed the Ohio Players, you know, and they took off, it's like we all stayed in touch, you know, and still to this day, we're all Daytonians, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing though. It really is, you know, just to see regular people that you know go out and chase their dreams, and then you all meet up later in life and say, "Hey, I see you. You know, I said I would do this. You said you would do that."
I know. You know, so, I don't go to Dayton often, and a lot of people, a lot of us who were in the music scene have moved out. They still they have things going on locally, but it was just, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I was in the mix with, remember M2May? I mean, all of us. We'd go to a club and we'd all be there, you know, and I just wouldn't trade it for the world. I know everybody has their time in the business, but mine wasn't bad. I was never influenced by drugs. I always kept my skin clean, you know, my hair together and my weight down. So
that's right.
You know, it was never because we would work out when we'd get off the tour bus, the women, we you know, doing our stuff. Because you can't go out there looking funny. So you know, but I'm just happy that I'm doing this first album alone. You know, as a single artist, with the help of, like I said, Ronnie Payne, my musical producer, and Billy and I vocally coming up with arrangements and stuff like that, you know. And then my friend Ronnie, who is my music producer, he is from Trinidad. So on one of my songs, I think one that's going to be on one that's going to be on the album, I got steel drums, you know, because I went all the way there, you know. So it's just been fun creating. It's been very therapeutic to create this music. And I must say that I don't want to sound cliche, but I'm most alive when I am singing.
Yeah. Some people won't understand that. I get that.
Well, it's very important too, as a singer, I've learned my voice, you know, drink water, take my, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Some people don't do those things, and then we see the results of them later, you know. So I'm glad that you're still around, you know, to be a part of that huge musical push out era was something in itself. And even you talked about M2May earlier. I love M2May. I had to watch the AG on here not too long ago, matter of fact. But yeah, all of those groups, and it was so much camaraderie back then too. Everybody really had a group or a band, and it was really like family. It seemed like amongst the groups and, you know, each other. So I really have a special place in my heart for those groups and that music. I love it. But I'm glad you're still here and creating music. And I'm happy and I'm excited to hear this new project. So I can't wait for that. But I just got one last thing, because I can't hold you forever.
That's fine.
But I just want to know, what are you most grateful for today?
My health,
Okay.
my health, and uh, the ability to express my gratitude
Yes.
for all of the benefits that I've had, fortune that I've accumulated uh, in experiences in my life. First, that
Mm-hmm.
is my gratitude. But yes, okay, yeah, okay, and then understanding at the moment you don't do. I mean, yeah, we rip and run and do our errands and take care of our businesses and stuff, but then stop every so often and just thank you
Yeah.
so much for this
Yeah.
opportunity in this lifetime
Mm-hmm.
to be able to sing. And hopefully my intent is to touch people's hearts with my music. If I can make them feel better for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, that's my purpose. It sounds
Yeah.
very altruistic, but it is sincerely how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
That if I can touch someone's heart because they are going through something without me even knowing, if I can just for that amount of time please their ears and make them just relax and or dance or whatever, then my work is done, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And we don't always know. I mean, you don't always have the validation, but if I can get on the radio in a regular rotation so I can crank out more and more and more songs, that's what I'm going to be doing, you know.
Okay. Well, I definitely look forward to that. I definitely hope all of that stuff comes to fruition. I'm sure it will, though. And just before you go, though, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, if you have any, and your website.
Okay. My website is Melanie, Melanie, Mojazz 64 .com. That's my website because I was thinking of my email.
Yeah.
No, actually, wait a minute. I'm sorry. It's it's Melanie Mojazz. It's no 64, melaniemojazz.com. That's
Okay.
what my website is. And in that website, you will hear some selections, stuff I've done. And then my bio is in there. My EPK, which is an electronic press kit, is just there for you to listen to. And I will be having another section. In fact, I was talking to my website originator yesterday, where we'll put dates of where I'm appearing
Okay.
around. Right now, we don't want to put that on the website because there's been these big gaps, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you're getting booked. So, but that will be there'll be another link on there so you can see where I'm appearing if I'm in your favorite state or city, you know.
Okay. And your social media, do you have any?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Melanie Moore. Seals, it might be under Seals, Seals, and hit me up, you know, follow me. Because everything will come out on Instagram and Facebook. I'm just in those two. I'm not on Twitter.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than Miss Melanie Moore herself. Thank you so much again. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Tony, for having me.